Chris Mandel, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure having you. What are the 3 key takeaways that you want participants of this conference to remember from your session today?
Well, I guess the first thing would be that you really can't manage risk unless you understand how much risk you're taking and how much risk you need to take. And, people think that requires some fancy formula to quantify it. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means they got to spend some time investing in understanding what their risk profile looks like. And a lot of people don't do it. They kind of manage, to the wind. And as I said, and so that would be one key thing. Another is that it's a journey. It's not a project. So, it's iterative. You kind of do things as you're able, as you're resourced, as management is committed to do it, rather than trying to pull something off the shelf, jam it in place and go, we're going to get this done in the next 18 months and come hell or high water and hope for the best, because that usually leads to failure. I didn't say that, but I inferred it. And I guess the other is the core of my presentation, which is to really understand that success in organizations, whether they're public, private, or otherwise, is a function of managing risk well. And when there's failure, small or large, frequently or infrequently, it's typically a function of not managing risk well and or not taking the right amount of risk in order to succeed.
Does that mean, and I'm clearly being sarcastic in answering that question, asking that question, does that mean the risk manager should be the first person to go if there is a collapse or a crisis?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, oftentimes the risk manager becomes the scapegoat. And there could be reasons for that to be appropriate, but if it's structured properly, if it's been deployed the right way, then risks gone bad are a function of whoever owned that risk and didn't manage it well. As long as you, as the risk leader, whether you're a chief risk officer or director or whatever you are, have done what you're supposed to do to enable risk owners to be successful, then you've done your job.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you won't get tagged, because a lot of CEOs look at risk managers as the people who own the risk, and that's incorrect.
Mm-hmm. And the role of the risk leader, and I like the term because it doesn't really put it in any position.
Right.
It depends on the company
Right.
organizational structure. Does that mean that the role of the risk leader is to help management integrate risk analysis, risk-based decision making, risk management into their operational strategic activities, into the things that they do and how they operate every day?
Precisely. If you do it well, what you're really doing is embedding risk process into the culture, which means you're embedding it into sub-processes, whether it's budgeting, project management, capital management, human resource planning, whatever it is. Every element of activity involves some element of risk to varying degrees. And so embedding risk strategy into a company and into a culture, which is a long-term initiative, means that everybody that's out there doing their thing, making the decisions that they're making to get their jobs done, it always involves some element of risk.
Mm-hmm. And you've picked up on the second sort of important theme. The first theme being clearly there's a focus and the shift towards integrating risk process into all the other different existing business processes in the company. The other theme that you picked up on, risk integrating into risk culture, changing the way people think about uncertainty, about risk. How critical, how important is that?
Oh, it's the most important aspect, because culture of companies is all about behaviors. Organizations have cultural change initiatives because they don't like the way people are behaving in various ways. So to get people aligned around a mission, you change a culture to get them to buy into whatever you're after and the way in which you pursue that. And only over the long term do you actually get people to do that successfully. Certain people will never get there. They fall out of the system if it's designed right, as being identified as people that don't fit, put it simply. And everyone else that theoretically remains in the system well designed are those people who are on board for the mission, who are willing to do what management has said is necessary in order to deliver their products and services. And ideally that means, managing risk throughout as a core aspect of management best practices.
I see. And just take a slightly different turn on our conversation. What advice would you give to young risk managers or people just starting in the risk management career?
Well, it's funny, I did a paper for the International Risk Management Institute about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been presenting on that topic regularly for the last year and a half in universities, in RIMS chapters and other conference formats, and it's called the 10 building blocks of risk leader success.
Mm-hmm.
And so it involves obviously 10 things that I think are important to that, but if I were to kind of boil it down, I would say more than any other one thing, the emerging kind of students that are becoming careerists out of university programs ideally are people who don't typically know what risk management is. Maybe if they're in one of the couple of dozen universities in the United States where I come from that have risk management majors, they will have been exposed to it, maybe not.
Yeah.
But once people get exposed to it, who at least have that business predilection like I did, I went into business management, but wasn't exposed to risk management until the first 5 years into my career. I think they can get hooked on it pretty well because it's such a diverse, constantly changing, never a dull moment, never the same thing twice in a day kind of discipline, kind of profession, really.
Yeah.
That it really jazzes a lot of people once they get exposed to it. The problem is that most of us, myself included, kind of fell into it. And only after that did we realize, hey, this is kind of cool.
It's kind of exciting.
I think we'll do it,
I still am quite excited about our field of risk management that we're working. Yes.
Yeah. So it is, and so it's got its ups and downs for sure, like everything. Not the least of which is if you don't do it well, you may find yourself unemployed. But it's an increasingly important discipline in global business, and so that in and of itself should be pretty exciting for most careers.
And to end, thanks for that. And to end on a sort of on a lighter note, and for the people that are watching this video to dip their toe into the world of risk management and uncertainty, is there a favorite book that you may have that you would recommend people to have a look at?
Yeah, probably the most entertaining and substantive book on risk management is Against the Gods by Bernstein.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you the history of risk management back to the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And most people, when they read it, they say, wow, I had no idea. This has been around for a long time.
For a very long time.
It just wasn't called risk management,
Exactly.
But from the garden, so to speak, we've been making decisions about risk, from the day that Adam and Eve decided to eat the apple, It was a risk decision.
Exactly. And Against the Gods could be our potential winner today because it's been mentioned most frequently by other people as well. And the biggest takeaway for me from that book was it really puts things in perspective. It gives you the essence of where risk management started from, and it started in maritime insurance, gambling, decision-making, investment decision-making. It started as a tool to help make money, to reduce uncertainty and help make better decisions, supposedly to make money, which is interesting. We're kind of losing that a little bit now. We're moving into managing risk for the sake of managing risk, forgetting that unless you do something that makes money, it's probably not that necessary.
Well, that was the essence of what I was trying to say. In fact, the way I would put it, that I didn't put it earlier, was, and I've said this before, what's the point of managing risk with any kind of discipline if it's not after success? If it's not directly connected to mission accomplishment, as I call it.
Yeah.
But it really is. Or should it? Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
Speaking of books, by the way, I've just started writing my own first book called High Performance Risk Management.
Nice.
Which hopefully will be done by the end of next year.
It's a very ambitious target, and we wish you all the luck, and we're looking forward to seeing you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.